What is up guys, and welcome back to another YouTube tutorial with me Moabi, and today we are going to be installing the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol role. This role is also known as the DHCP. It manages and assigns IP addresses automatically to clients on your network. So to get started, let's click on Manage. Once you click Manage, click on Add Roles and Features. Once you click Add Roles and Features, you will see the Select Installation tab. So we're going to leave everything as default, so click on Next. Now guys, before we begin, in a previous video I said that I'm going to be checking this box that says skip this page by default, as it shows me the same information always. So once you check the box skip this page by default, your wizard will always start by the installation type window. So from here, let's click on Next. The next wizard that you see is the Select Destination Server. I'm also going to keep everything as default as I am installing this role on my host machine, so I'm going to click on Next. After clicking Next, select the DHCP server role. Once you check the box DHCP server, a new pop-up window will pop up with added features for your DHCP. So I'm going to leave everything as default. Make sure that the Include Management Tools checkbox is also checked, and then click on Add Features. Now click Next. After clicking Next, you will see the Select Features window, and we are not going to select anything from here, so let's click on Next. After clicking Next, the next window that you see is more information basically about DHCP. It tells us that the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol allows servers to assign or lease IP addresses to computers and other devices that are enabled as DHCP clients. So, deploying a DHCP server on the network provides computers and other TCP or IP-based network devices with valid IP addresses and the additional configuration parameters these devices need, called DHCP options. This allows computers and devices to connect to other network sources such as DNS servers, WINS servers, and routers. And below that, you will see things to note. You should configure at least one static IP address on this computer. We have done that already. And the next bullet says, before you install DHCP server, you should plan your subnet scope and extensions. Store the plan in a safe place for later reference. We will talk more about subnets, scopes, and exclusions in a few minutes or so. So let's click on Next. After you click Next, you will see the Confirm Installation selections. In this window, this is where we are going to be installing our DHCP role. So, as always, whenever I install rules and features onto my server, I normally want to check the box Restart this destination server automatically if required. You will see a pop-up menu that informs you that the server will restart automatically without any notifications. I'm going to click on Yes and then click Install. Now I'm going to wait for the DHCP server role to be installed, and then we will continue. See you in a few minutes. Okay guys, once the DHCP server role is finished installing, it didn't restart my server in my case. Now, in this window, you will see Complete DHCP Configuration. Let's just say you press the button Close, and then now you need to get back to the Post Configuration Install menu. So all you have to do is click on your notifications, and then click on Complete DHCP Configuration. This will open the DHCP Post Installation Configuration wizard. So let me just move my window here. On this window, we see a message that says the following steps will be performed to complete the configuration of the DHCP server on the target computer. And below that message, we see one that says create the following security groups for delegation of DHCP server administration. And these groups are DHCP administrators, DHCP users. And the last message that we see on our window is authorize DHCP server on target computer if domain joined. So we do have a domain, we will authorize our DHCP server. Let's continue and click on Next. After you click Next, you will see the authorization window. In this window, you will see a message that says specify the credentials to be used to authorize this DHCP server in ADDS, which is your Active Directory Domain Services. So I'm going to leave everything as default and click on the button that says Commit. After you click Commit, you will see a summary window. Now, in this window is just a summary of what was done onto your server. Like creating security groups was done, authorizing the DHCP server was also done. So in this case, let's just click on close. Now guys, I want you to take note that the DHCP role is also included now on the dashboard. We have done only the first part of our DHCP configuration. That was just the process of installing and authorizing our DHCP onto our domain. So in this case now, I'm going to move on to the second step, which is to configure our IP address, our subnet mask, and also our default gateway, so that now our DHCP server can start handing out IP addresses to other clients that are connected to our network. So for now, I'm going to click on Tools and then locate DHCP. Click on DHCP and then I'm going to maximize my screen. So in this DHCP window, I see homedc.techtipswithmoabi.com. That is known as the fully qualified domain name. So in this case, I'm going to click the arrow next to my fully qualified domain name. And then below that, I will see IPv4 and IPv6. So for our tutorials on Windows Server, I'm going to be using IPv4. And then from here, if you click the name IPv4, you will see a message or a warning that says add a scope. So to create a scope, we are going to right click on IPv4. And if you look through the menu, you will see new scope. So let's click on new scope. Click on next. So in this window, we need to give our scope a name. I'm going to name my scope home scope. So guys, you can give your scope any name that you prefer. This is the name that you're going to use to identify your scope on your network. So I'm going to leave mine as home scope and then click on next. After you click next, you will see the IP address range window. Now in this window, we are going to define the scope address range by identifying a set of consecutive IP addresses. So this basically just means that we need to have a starting IP address and an ending IP address. So for this demonstration, I'm going to be using the following IP address range. So I'm going to enter my starting IP address and my ending IP address. Below that, you will see configuration settings that propagate to DHCP client, which is length and then subnet mask. These settings were configured automatically for us by our server. So I'm going to leave everything as default. So once you're done with your IP address range and also your subnet mask, click next. After you click next, you will see add exclusions and delay. Exclusions are addresses or range of addresses that are not distributed by the server, meaning that anyone that is connected to your network, the server will not assign that specified IP address range to those clients. So for this demonstration, I'm not going to exclude an IP address range. So let's click on next. After you click next, you will see the lease duration window. The lease duration specifies how long a client can use an IP address from the scope. You can go ahead and read more information about the lease duration below, but I'm going to change mine from 8 days to 4 hours. I want my DHCP server to hand out new IP addresses every 4 hours to anyone that is connected to my network. So after enter 4 hours, I'm going to click on next. After you click next, you will see configure DHCP options. You have to configure the most common DHCP options before clients can use the scope. Below that, you will see when clients obtain an address, they are given DHCP options such as the IP addresses of routers, default gateways, DNS servers, and WINS settings for that scope. So the settings you select here are for this scope and override settings configured in the server options folder for this server. You have to configure the most common DHCP options before clients can use the scope. So I'm going to leave the default option as yes. I want to configure these options now and click on next. After you click next, the next window you see is router. In this window, we need to specify our default gateway IP address so that it can be handed out to our clients. So I'm going to enter my default gateway and then I'm going to click on add, then click next. After I click next, the next window is the domain name and DNS servers. So in this window, we need to add our domain, but as you can see, it has already been added for us automatically. Let's just say the information was not entered automatically and now you need to add this information. So let's just click on that IP address and then remove it. And then let's just delete this information. So guys, I have removed information about my server and now I'm going to enter the server name, which in this case I need to enter the fully qualified domain name of my server. So here is the information. Once you enter the fully qualified domain name of your server, all you have to do is click on resolve, and this gives you the IP address of your server. So for this demonstration, I'm going to click on add. Once that is finished, I'm going to click on next. After we click next, the next window we see is the Wins servers. So in our demonstration, I haven't configured any Wins servers, so I'm going to click on next. Now, once we click next, we see the activate scope window. In this window, we see a message below activate scope that says clients can obtain address leases only if a scope is activated. And below that, we see, do you want to activate the scope now? For this demonstration, I'm going to leave the option as yes and then click on next. Now that we are finished with our new scope, all you have to do is click on finish. If you look on your left, now we have a scope, and next to the scope, there's a little arrow, so click the arrow. Under scope, you will see address pool, which only at this moment has your IP address range. Below that, you will see address leases. So in this folder, you will see all the clients that are receiving the IP address from your DHCP. So I will show you that in a few minutes from my Windows 10 machine. Below address leases, you will see reservations. A reservation ensures that a DHCP client is always assigned the same IP address. Let's just say, for instance, you have a printer or you have a camera and you want that IP address to remain static only for that device. All you have to do is right click and then you can add a new reservation. This will require a name for the reservation name, and then below that you will see an IP address, which is the IP address that you will set statically for that device. The MAC address of the device will be required, and then from there onwards you can just click add, and the next time you plug in that device that you set up, it will have the specified IP address. But for this demonstration, I am not going to be reserving any IP addresses yet. So I'm going to click on close, and below reservations you will see scope options. Under scope options, you will see router, which is your gateway, and also your DNS server, which is our host server. Below that, we will see DNS domain name, and next to that, you will see the value as techtipswithmoabi.com. I'm not going to change any options from this menu. So guys, for this demonstration, I'm going to jump into my Windows 10 machine and see if my DHCP server will hand out an IP address to my Windows 10 machine as soon as it sees the machine on the network. So I'll see you guys on my Windows 10 machine. Alright guys, now that we are on our Windows 10 machine, I want you guys to know that this machine, the IP address was set statically. So I want this machine to obtain the IP address from the DHCP server. So in order to do that, let's click on the search bar and then search for control panel. Press search, then type in control. Once you type in control, you will see control panel under best match. Click on that. This will open up your control panel for you. Now in this step, I want us to click on network and internet. Once you click network and internet, I want you to click on network and sharing center. Now before I continue, I want us to click on the search bar again so that I can show you the current IP address of this machine. So in order to do that, I'm going to type in CMD to open up the command prompt, then press enter. As soon as the command prompt opens up, type in the word ipconfig to see the current IP address settings of this Windows machine. So I'm going to type in ipconfig, then press enter. This is the current network settings of this Windows 10 machine. So I'm going to minimize this window. Under control panel in the network and sharing center, I'm going to click on change adapter settings. This will open up the network connections window, and under network connections window, you will see Ethernet or the name of your adapter. And now I'm going to right click on it and then click on properties. Once you click properties, you will see a couple of options. We are going to be focusing on the Internet Protocol version 4. So select the name Internet Protocol version 4, then click on properties. After you click properties, as you can see, the settings are static. So I want this machine to obtain the IP address automatically from our DHCP server. So that's the button I'm going to select. And below that, I'm going to select the button that says obtain DNS server automatically. Then click OK. This will ensure that this Windows 10 machine will obtain its IP address from our DHCP server. So click on close. Close the network connections window. And now if you take a look at the control panel, under view your active networks, you will see techtipswithmoabi.com, which is my domain name. And next to that, I'm going to click on the Ethernet button, then click on details. We get our domain name at the top for the connection specific DNS suffix. You will see the physical address, which is your MAC address of your machine. And below that, you will see DHCP enabled, which is yes, which is what we want. And before we obtained the new IP address, my previous IP address was 192.168.1.10, which now has changed and follows our IP address range that starts from 100 all the way to 254. Below that, you will see our subnet mask that is obtained automatically from the DHCP server. So I want you to take note of the time the lease was obtained and the time the lease will expire. If we have a look, the time the lease was obtained was 5:47 and the time when the lease will expire will be at 9:47. That is a difference of 4 hours, which makes our lease duration time correct. So in this case, I'm going to move on, and below our lease expires, we will see IPv4 default gateway. This is our router IP address. Below IPv4 default gateway, you will see IPv4 DHCP server with the IP address of our DHCP server. And below that, you will see IPv4 DNS server with the same IP address as our DHCP server, as these roles are installed on our host machine. So as you can see guys, our DHCP is now working properly. So now guys, let's jump into our Windows Server machine and let's see the changes that have taken place under address lease in our DHCP window. So guys, now that I'm back on my server, in order to see the users that have obtained an IP address from my server, all I have to do is refresh the page. Now, once you click refresh, you should be able to see your Windows 10 machine under your address leases. So guys, I'm going to leave the video here. For this demonstration, I wanted you guys to take note of how to install DHCP role, how to configure the DHCP, how to create a new scope, how to activate the scope, and also how to lease out IP addresses to our clients. So guys, we'll talk more about DHCP in future when we have more devices on our network. For now, if you have any questions, suggestions, or any comments, you can leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, recommend the channel to a friend or two, and then guys, I will see you on the next video. And remember, each one teach one.